What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner, and you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. This is Season 4, Episode 14 of the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this afternoon is our college football expert, Josh Schaefer, our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klein.
Why am I not considered an expert?
Well, you're the executive producer.
I'm also not an expert.
And I'm your host for this afternoon, Blake Harris. Now, we talked about it at the end of the show last week where Lyle is going to be out of town on Tuesday, so we are doing the show on Sunday afternoon.
Way to go, Lyle.
Now, before we get started, Brady, cue that music. Well, boys, at the beginning of the season, I came on here and boldly predicted that, first off, the Michigan Wolverines would make the college football playoff. Well, that pretty much was incorrect after about a few weeks. But that's okay, because I still had my Oregon Ducks prediction. Now, I did come out and say that they would go undefeated. Now, of course, they lost week 1 to Bo Nix, which is a heartbreaking loss, but, you know, it happens. But I still had hope that they'd make the college football playoff like I predicted. They were looking good. All season, Oregon was looking good. They were dominating every week, no threat. They were cruising their way into the Pac-12 title game, which they still are, against Utah. And had they beaten Utah, they likely, for the most part, would have made the college football playoff. But I didn't take into account the Oregon Ducks coming into Tempe, Arizona, and playing like garbage. The Arizona State Sun Devils upset the Oregon Ducks last night in Tempe. I am wearing my Fear the Fork shirt, so for the final time this year, I will proudly display my Oregon Ducks hat, but their time has come and gone. I'm putting on my Arizona State Sun Devils hat. I apologize for the awful hair. I need to get a haircut soon.
Show off that logo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, show off the logo. Fear the Fork. Go Devils. It was a great giveaway shirt they gave out last night. I got about a few extras, so if there's any fans out there that want an XL or a large Fear the Fork shirt.
I need an XL.
Oh, Brady. I guess Brady didn't get one, so sorry. My headphones are do you see this? There we go. Yeah, guys, so my Oregon Ducks can well, maybe they still can make the playoffs. There's a lot that can happen. I think these are backwards, so
you look good, though.
Thank you. Let's try this one more time.
There you go.
I think that's a lot better. All right. So, yeah, I'm heartbroken. It was tough last night, guys, because, I was hoping, of course, the Sun Devils would win, we get to storm the field, but knowing the back of my mind, I'm going to get torn a new one for this. So we'll get to that later in the show. So I just had to get that apology, I guess, take one for the team off my chest right now. And, so... Alrighty, well.
It's a duck hunt.
Now, that's true. Now, let's talk about something. Let's talk about something a little better, guys, shall we? Let's talk about our fantasy league.
Yes.
Now, as I mentioned on the show last week, we had playoffs. I'm just trying to get the scores loaded on my phone right now. So we had our fantasy playoffs for the show this past week. Now, first off, I beat Brady 208 to 164. A valiant effort, Brady. A valiant effort.
And Shabbat Shalom to you, Blake.
Now, looking at this, I mean, just a lot didn't go your way. I mean, Albert Ukubaku Naganagan, he was ruled out, so he didn't actually play. But I mean,
Swedish?
I don't think he would have gotten you 50 points.
Big summer blowout.
I don't think he would have gotten you 50 points. A really off game from Sam Mellinger only got you 14. KJ Hamler only got you 6, but that's because I guess he was kind of banged up, so he was kind of in and out. So you hate to see that. But now, Lyle. Now, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes.
I believe all season, whenever we talk about the rankings, Lyle would just brush it off and not care because he claimed at the end of the year, when it mattered most for the 2-game playoffs, he would win and pretty much win it all.
Yeah, he did say that.
Now, the final score in your and Lyle's matchup was 260 to 197.
Yes.
So, Lyle, the floor is yours. You lose by 63 points.
What?
You have officially been eliminated. You officially... Well, I mean, I guess you can fight BK
third
next
place.
week. So, yes, technically, next week you guys will play, and whoever loses will be the worst of the worst, and they'll have to read the thing on air. But, Lyle, you talked mad game, and you lost by 63, and now you still could beat BK next year, or next week, I should say, but 3 wins on the season, and your team choked.
Yeah, I just got outscored. Sorry.
No, but you talked mad game, dog. All year you said you'd win these 2 games, and your team didn't show up. Josh wants an explanation. He was expecting a competition.
See, to be fair, I will say that Lyle maybe didn't talk mad game, but I think he definitely downplayed how bad his team was. So I think you do have to answer for that, or we just wait and see what happens next week.
Yeah. We'll just see what happens.
A man of very little words. Now, for
That was
those
very disappointing,
Now,
I'm
for
not gonna
those of
lie.
you that are graciously tuning in right now, expect about 10 words out of Lyle all show because he's watching the Seahawks game, and it took pretty much the 3 of us to beg him to come do the show as opposed to watching the game. So,
Oh my
if you don't hear
goodness!
much from Lyle this week, that's probably why. At least until probably maybe 45 minutes from now when the game's
If we cut
over.
to Lyle and he doesn't say anything, I'll just drop this.
Oh my goodness!
There
that,
you go.
That will
So,
fill in for anything Lyle has
For
to
those
say.
of you that are dying to hear Lyle's takes, well, I might have to wait for about 45 minutes to an hour. But guys,
They're
those are
currently
the-
up by 2 touchdowns with 7 minutes left
They
in the
just
game.
ran a
though, so-
flea flicker for a touchdown.
That's true.
That was
so
in the first quarter.
So again, we
Shut
won't
up,
hear
Lyle.
for about 30 minutes because even if it's a 50-point game, the game will not be turned off. But guys, so those were the fantasy things. Next week, I play Josh for the championship.
Good luck.
So that means sometime in January when we record, either me or Josh will be hosting the show.
Is
That's
there
true.
a championship winner prize?
No, it's just you host the show and you get pride.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which
big
I
on-
have,
big
which
on
I have
pride.
every week, so it's a win-win situation. And then Lyle and Brady will be fighting for the losers bracket. Again, loser has to come on the show in January and read a 1-page essay as to why their team came in last place.
What's really disappointing is in the other league where Lyle has really been talking his game.
Yes, Josh.
In the other league where
Josh,
Lyle
wait,
has
it
been.
is-
Wait a minute, did Lyle lose?
Oh,
my
it's-
God! I swear to you, I did not
It's
realize.
funny.
That's not
that
even where I was
you
gonna go with
bring
this.
Oh
that
my
up, Josh.
goodness.
It's funny Josh brings that up because as our frequent viewers know, every time we bring up our fantasy football for college, Lyle always says, "Oh, it's fine because I am the best team in our Arizona State
That's
League.
not
I'm
what
the
I
best
said.
team." Brady, we might have to get the interns to go back and cut how he's in first place.
Well, I said I was in first place.
All right,
I
so
didn't come
first
out and
place.
say I had the
So,
best team. There's a difference.
As I mentioned,
when you say you're in
last
first
week,
place, you say you're in first place.
I think we've poked the bear here,
The
Josh.
point that I was gonna make was all year on this show, I've said that my team in the other fantasy league has been really unlucky through the whole course of the season, whether it was tying Lyle when I had 3 guys who needed a yard for an additional point, whether it was scoring the second most points in the league last week and still losing and missing out on the playoffs. Well, I think that I just wanted to report that in the consolation bracket, I scored 30 more points than any other team in the league. And I'm going to the consolation championship.
Hey, man.
That is garbage.
Hey, the consolation bracket is nothing to be upset about.
No,
That
I should
is-
be in the playoffs.
Anyway, so I matched up with Lyle this week in the semifinals.
I'm mad.
And I beat him 143.82 to 142.48.
You guys just have to admit that it was a good game.
It was a great game.
You have to admit.
So my team comes out with a 1-point win.
You just have
and
to.
For the
Well-
second year in a row, guys, I will be playing Big J in the championship. For the
Really?
second year in a row.
The person I beat
I
in the
would've-
consolation
well,
bracket scored the second most points in
Would
the
have
league.
been
this
great
week.
to know that they were going to use CeeDee Lamb for 25% of the snaps. Like they wouldn't announce what he was going to do, and they said he was going to play. They didn't play him the first 2 drives of the entire game.
That's a good
And then
point.
he ends up with 11, and then I would have just played Desmond Patton, who ended up with 25.
That's a good point.
But yeah.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, there you go. I mean, I had like 4 people on my bench put up 25, so that could have been different, but hey, I'll be in the championship next week. So, Lyle, unfortunately, took 2 big L's this week, and maybe next week you'll take your final big L of the season. But guys, it's time to talk some playoff rankings. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the latest playoff rankings right now because, as you guys know, it's Sunday. And not only can you not eat Chick-fil-A on Sunday, well, we can't get those playoff rankings on Sunday either. They'll be coming out on Tuesday. But for the most part, I think we have a fairly decent idea as to what they're going to be, unless for whatever reason they decide, you know what, let's just make things a little more chaotic this week. So, I mean, there's no reason to really get into the top four we think it's going to be because I think for the most part we can agree those are going to stay the same. But guys, let's talk about some of these other rankings. Now, obviously, ASU, they came out and they lost. That kind of makes things a little interesting. Or I say ASU. Oh, that's sorry. Oregon, I should say, came out. They lost. That's going to make things a little bit interesting. I'm trying to get these rankings on my computer right now, and for whatever reason, they don't. Actually, no. Let me go to week 13. And there we go. We got the playoff rankings right there. So Oregon, they're likely going to drop out. They're probably not going to have any chance for the college football playoff. Assuming now Utah's going to slide into 6. Oklahoma's probably going to slide into 7. And Minnesota's probably going to slide into 8. But those are what our guesses are for the playoff rankings. So guys, my first question to you is, with Oregon officially, 99% likely getting eliminated from the playoff hunt, Utah still has to play them in the Pac-12 title game. Utah, of course, still needs to win this upcoming week, and then they have to beat Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. How big did this hurt Utah's chances of reaching the playoff? Because now, Oregon's still going to be ranked maybe like 12, 13, 14. So if they beat Oregon, it's still going to be a really good win, but it would have been a much better win had they been 6. So Utah, what percentage now do you think they have to make the playoff if they win out?
I still think they have a good chance. Obviously, they would have really needed an Oregon win, because if Oregon had beaten ASU, and say Oregon wins the Civil War this upcoming week against Oregon State, then those are two. I don't think ASU nor Oregon State is elite by any means, but that would still put Oregon undefeated in Pac-12 play going to the conference championship. And then let's just say that Utah wins. They beat Arizona yesterday pretty handedly. Let's just say they beat Colorado this upcoming week, so they do clinch the South and then go to the championship. And let's just say they beat Oregon. Then I think it's pretty clear-cut for me that either Georgia or LSU has to lose. And even with LSU losing, and let's say that Georgia beats LSU, that means Georgia's in the playoff. LSU's a one-loss team. I would say that there is a pretty good chance that a conference champion Utah team with one loss to a now ranked USC team who finished second in the South, based on this scenario, I still think it would be tough to keep Utah out if that's the case, even though they would have beaten Oregon, obviously. But still, with Oregon winning the North, being a 9-2 team, they're gonna have a 10-win season this year. They're gonna beat Oregon State this week, and they're gonna go to the conference championship. I think if Utah wins, it is still a big enough win for the Utes to make an argument that they should be included in the playoff.
Yeah, so here's the difference. I think Utah should get in if they win out and win the Pac-12 championship, even with Oregon losing to ASU. The problem is, I don't know if the committee fully commits to putting him in or not, because if Alabama plays Auburn really well and Mac Jones looks good and they go out and win by 17 points, I think the committee might still kind of push Alabama into the 4 spot and find a way for him to get in. Because if everything holds true up to next week or in 2 weeks, like Josh talked about, if LSU and Georgia go up in the SEC title game and both of those teams are still, Georgia still has one loss, LSU's undefeated, I think that LSU would have to beat Georgia. Or LSU would have to beat Georgia. Georgia goes out, and then that opens up that one spot, of course, in which case it's going to be a toss-up for grabs. And at that point, yeah, if Utah beats Oregon handily, I would think they should still get in. But the problem is, like I've said in the past, until I fully see the committee actually leave Alabama out, every part of me in the back of my head thinks that they're still going to find a way to shove them in.
Yeah, there's no, again, when it comes to Alabama, you cannot punish them for Tua getting hurt. But again, kind of like we said last week, the eye test is still a thing. And at least against Western Carolina, Mac Jones didn't look bad, though, either. And I still think that him at quarterback is something to consider going into the playoff, especially if they're going up against a Utah team that wins out in the regular season, beats a top 15 Oregon team in the conference championship game, and finishes the season, 11-1 or 12-1 or whatever they would be at that point. It would be tough to keep them out. But again, 3 touchdowns, 275 yards for Mac Jones against not a very good Western Carolina team. It's enough to at least put a little bit of hope at least in my head, that I think that Alabama can still compete for a playoff position, especially with him at quarterback. But also, he still has a tough team to play next week, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just when it comes down to it, and the committee looks at it when you talk about the eye test, when they look at, okay, who's going to go up against LSU? You want Utah, a Pac-12 champion, potentially, who would really only have one good win, and that's if they beat Oregon. Or you have Alabama, you get the rematch. I mean, won the whole publicity part of it, but in terms of who can really play LSU tough, I mean, Bama came back in that game. They made it close. What do you think they think sells for a better matchup? I think they think Alabama.
With the Oregon loss, this is just setting up for a 4-team SEC playoff.
Exactly.
It could happen. You're saying there's a chance.
Well, Ohio State has to lose, too, right?
Damn, you're right.
And Clemson.
Well,
Yeah, that's true, too.
but it could happen.
I feel
Wait,
like
who's
it's
the
not
fourth team?
unreasonable. Texas A&M.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry. Let's put it this way: a 3-team SEC playoff.
Okay,
that's more realistic.
featuring Ohio
Got
State.
it.
let's
Featuring Ludacris.
before we move on, can we take let's just listen to these two stat lines for Mac Jones and then the quarterback for Western Carolina, Tyree Adams, in this game. They both had 10 completions. Mac Jones had 10 completions for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns, while what did I say his name was? Tyree Adams, 10 completions, 112 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 picks. And they lost 66-3.
Yeah,
Roll
that's,
Tide.
That's tough. Yeah, Mac only threw the ball 12 times. Jesus.
They also ran the ball 42 times.
was
1,
this?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different Alabama players carried the football 42 times.
Do you know what was kind of cool watching that Alabama game?
What?
Is seeing Tua's brother get in at quarterback and go off. Granted,
Threw
it
a touchdown.
Granted, it was not a top tier opponent, but it was still cool to see.
Yeah, he only threw the ball 3 times, but hey, threw a touchdown.
So speaking of Utah, I think if they win out, they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. I think they should easily be in over Alabama just because of the season they've had. They win their conference championship over a good team like Oregon. Now, I think had they beaten the number 6 ranked Oregon, I think it would have been a near lock. But now it's going to make things a little questionable. What should happen is that Utah should be in over Alabama. But what I think will happen is I still am not going to be shocked if Bama, they do. Now, also, we have to take into account where if Georgia beats LSU, none of this matters because the top 4 are going to be LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia. Those are going to be the top 4. None of this is going to matter if Georgia pulls off the win. But let's say they don't, and it truly comes down to Alabama, Utah, and Oklahoma, who we'll talk about in a second. I think the committee, and I'm not going to be shocked, they say, what is the country going to be more willing to watch? Because you have to take into account also with the playoff rankings, it's also about ratings. It's about which is going to get more ratings, what game is going to bring more people into the seats for the stadium, and it's going to be Alabama. Do people want to watch LSU versus Utah in the semifinal? Or do people want to see a rematch of LSU-Alabama in the semifinal?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I kind of want to see LSU-Utah. I'm curious to see how good Utah really is, but
Which,
I'm probably
me-
one in a small portion.
Which me as well, because that's the reason I want Utah, because I want to see how good they can do against some of these opponents. But the college football fan in me wants to see Bama LSU rematch. Or even if Ohio State sneaks up to 1, if they get a good win against Michigan and then they get a good win against Minnesota.
Ohio State?
Yeah, or Ohio State, if they get those good wins and they move up to 1, then all of a sudden we're getting Ohio State versus Bama.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a much better matchup, more exciting matchup, even though Tua is going to be out. Again, I think Utah should be in. I think they deserve it. Will the committee go that route? I'm not going to be too certain, because if they decide to go with Alabama over Utah, that has to be the reason. It's because more people care about that, because you can't make the case with Alabama losing the one game. They've played absolutely nobody, and they're not going to have that conference championship. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens between Alabama and Utah. But the next one I kind of want to discuss, guys, is with Oklahoma potentially getting in. So as I mentioned, Oregon's going to fall out. Penn State, they're going to fall out. Oklahoma likely is going to go up to 7 in the rankings this week. I don't know if they're going to leapfrog over Utah, but let's just say they come in at 7. Oklahoma, they still have a chance moving forward. They are going to be in the Big 12 title game in a few weeks, and I think it's confirmed that it's going to be Baylor in that game. They play on the road at Oklahoma State this upcoming weekend, so as of right now, Oklahoma State's ranked 21st They're probably going to move up maybe a few rankings depending if the committee wants to make that game a little more enticing, whereas Utah plays Colorado this week. So let's just say Oklahoma comes out, and we have to play hypotheticals because, it's still a week away. Let's say Oklahoma comes out, they dominate Oklahoma State, they get a convincing win. Utah, they're likely going to beat Colorado by a couple touchdowns. Let's just say that can, leapfrog Oklahoma over Utah, and all of a sudden now, Oklahoma's ranked 6th heading into title weekend. They beat Baylor, who's currently ranked 14th in the Big 12 title game. Does all of a sudden now, guys, Oklahoma kind of have the edge over Utah? Because it's essentially going to come down to, I think, though, we could talk about, again, Minnesota is the next topic, but it's going to come down to probably Oklahoma, Utah, then against Alabama. So do you think Oklahoma then has the edge? Because we just talked about this whole spiel about Utah, how they deserve to get in over Bama. Well, all of a sudden now, does Oklahoma have the edge over Utah?
Yeah, they do, and here's why. Number one, they really obviously have the edge over Utah. Say if Utah even wins the Pac-12 South, because there's still an opportunity for USC to win, and that's if Colorado can somehow upset Utah this week. It's a slim chance, but it could happen because this is the Pac-12, and ASU just beat number 6 Oregon. But say Utah wins the South, there is still a chance that they go to the Pac-12 championship and lose to Oregon. And I have more faith in Oklahoma beating Oklahoma State and then beating whoever they play in that Big 12 game.
It's going to be Baylor.
Okay, so they're going to play. I have more faith in them beating Baylor than I have in Utah beating Oregon. I think Utah's better than Oregon, but I think those teams are just a little more evenly matched. But on the other side of things, you have Oklahoma. They're the number 1 offense in the country. Their defense is much better than it's been in years past. They had a few slip-ups early towards the middle of the season, and I think that a lot of people kind of forgot about Oklahoma, especially when you have teams like LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Bama, even Utah and Oregon, existing in college football. I think Oklahoma has kind of slipped into the background, but I think Oklahoma has the offense that can, I think their offense can beat anybody in the country. And I think that would put them in over Utah, essentially, because I think a lot can still change with Utah, and it's tough. I think Oklahoma could potentially be the better team just right now, just off of the eye test, but it's going to take a lot to get really either of these teams in, but still a lot can happen.
So Oklahoma versus Utah. Let's throw Alabama out of this for a second. Let's say hypothetically they lose to Auburn and then they're out. Oklahoma versus Utah. Oklahoma is the best offense in the country. Josh said it. I still think Utah, if you put the two of them up against each other, might be the better team just because how strong their defense is and the fact that Tyler Huntley is such a dual threat and their backfield with Zach Moss is really strong. But when you look at who would play LSU closer, well, what does LSU do? They're kind of like Oklahoma. Their offense is absolutely explosive. Their defense is very kind of eh. So Oklahoma versus LSU, that's probably going to be a lot of points scored, and it's going to be a shootout for 60 minutes. One team comes out on top. Where sometimes what happens with these teams that have good defenses and an offense that maybe doesn't quite match up to a top-tier opponent like LSU, which would probably be what Utah would have, it might be a 23-3 type game. And if the committee's going to look at, well, one, what's a better game, and two, who can give them the better competition, well, I still think Utah might be the better team than Oklahoma. If the two of them went up against each other, I wouldn't be shocked to see Utah pull out a win. I think LSU is a step above just because of the playmakers they have on offense, whereas Oklahoma can probably match them offensively, whereas Utah can't.
You know what? I think it's also worth considering that I think Utah, with that one loss, I think they have the better loss. And it's to a USC team that is now both ranked in the college football playoff rankings and in the AP poll. Meanwhile, Kansas State is no longer ranked. And I think ever since that Oklahoma game, Kansas State has kind of fallen off a little bit. Since USC lost their fourth game this year, they've won 3 in a row. Some people in the media are actually backing Clay Helton now, and they have an elite passing game with Keaton Slovis and then 4 elite receivers that all had over 100 yards receiving yesterday. I think now suddenly USC is actually looking like a team that is getting a little bit more respect now. I think they're the best 4-loss team in the country by far, and USC looks hot, and especially with Utah where they're at right now, that matchup suddenly doesn't look like it looks like a great win for USC, but looking back at it, I remember that game as USC dominating from pretty early on and then Utah kind of coming back at the end. Now the way it looks is, all right, well, USC is actually a pretty solid team, and I think that one loss since then, Utah has dominated every single team they've played. which is why I think that's a better loss for Utah than Oklahoma's loss to K-State, I guess.
So I took to Twitter and had people give us their thoughts on the rankings, what they want to see happen, which, by the way, if you want to get in on the fun, go to Twitter right now, at the HH Show _. Lots of fun interaction going on right now. So pretty much I talked about if Utah, if they deserve to get in, if Oklahoma deserves to get in, between Utah, Oklahoma, Alabama, who would you give it to? So a few people. Kyle Capper says Utah has high percentage wins in very tough games. They went out. They should be in. Alabama will make it to the SEC title game. Oklahoma has a really bad loss against Kansas State, and almost losing to TCU doesn't look good. Kevin Collins said anybody but Bama. They won't have a single win over a team with 9 or more wins. Now, also Sports by JR, he replied saying they have, now I assume he's talking about Utah, they have the defense to play with the top teams. Oklahoma has been shaky, and Bama simply won't be playing for a conference championship.
Just remember, Arizona State has more top 10 wins than Alabama.
Uh-huh.
That's
That is
true.
true.
But speaking on schedules, I do see. Okay, the more and more we talk about this potential Oklahoma versus Utah thing, the more I flip back and forth on who I think I should get in. Because originally I said Oklahoma. Now I think that Utah has the better loss. But if we're looking at the schedule, the Pac-12 is so up and down that what marquee wins do the Utes have?
They have none.
They lost to USC, who again now looks like a pretty good team. They beat ASU on the road when at home when ASU was a top 15 team, which again the Pac-12 is so up and down. I think ASU is better than 6-5 by a lot. I think they're one of the better 5-loss teams in the country, if you want to say it. If you can even compare that. But who else? I mean,
They have no good wins.
they won at Arizona. What does that mean? They won at Washington. Washington's not that good. They don't really have that win that really jumps out because
They
the
tried
game.
their hardest.
Well, yeah, but the two games that stand out to me for Utah are losing on the road at USC and beating ASU at home in the rain.
Which could hurt them, which is why I think they
Yeah.
have to come out and they have to absolutely dominate Oregon, because if they win a close game against Oregon, I mean, yeah, that's going to be their best win, but they have nothing else to back it up on, where the committee can be going, yeah, well, I mean, at that point, it's like, would you take a team where, you got Utah? I mean, again, I know what the answer is going to be, but if you're the committee, are you looking at a team like Utah where they have a close win against Oregon, they have no good wins? Or let's just say, Georgia loses by 4 to LSU, where all of a sudden you got Georgia, who has a couple close losses to the best teams in the country. They could be going, well, we know that Utah won their conference championship, but who do we think is better? Who do we think could put up a better fight against Ohio State? Which could be something the committee thinks about. Before we move on to the final scenario, I'm looking at the playoff rankings right now. Now, these are last week's rankings. Just imagine this, guys. Let's just say week 1, Oregon wouldn't have lost to Bo Nix, and they would have won last night. They'd still be undefeated. Let's say Georgia just doesn't have that slip up, and they're still undefeated on the season.
Wait, you saying think Oregon didn't win last night? They still lost last night.
They won. So let's say they won.
They're undefeated.
So let's just say Oregon's still undefeated, like I said they would. Georgia's still undefeated. Let's say Oklahoma doesn't lose to Kansas State. They're still undefeated. Let's say Minnesota somehow doesn't blow that game to Iowa. They're still undefeated. Let's say Wisconsin, they didn't lose that one game to Illinois, but they do have the one loss. They're a one-loss team. Let's just say Michigan, they're only a one-loss team. Notre Dame, let's just say they don't lose to, Michigan. They're a one-loss team. Just imagine if we would have had like these 10, 11 teams right now, where we would still have like 6 undefeated teams, 4 teams with 1 loss. What kind of chaos we could have. Because, looking at these, there's not a lot of games where they've matched up against each other, and this is like who gave each other the loss. A lot of it is where Georgia, they lost to South Carolina. Oregon lost to Oregon lost to Auburn and ASU. Utah lost to USC. Oklahoma lost to Kansas State. Minnesota lost to Iowa. These are a lot of games where they easily could have been on the winning end, and there would be so much more chaos right now, where this would literally be the craziest finish to the season we'd probably have in college football history, trying to determine these top 4 teams. Because if all these things were true, I don't know who would get in, guys. I don't know, which I'm really upset about isn't the case.
You just said, what if all these teams were undefeated? What am I supposed to do with that?
It's like I said, it's just for fun. Because then who knows what would happen?
That's
who knows what would happen. But that's just me trying to have some fun with it. The final scenario, guys, Minnesota. They're currently ranked 10th. They're probably going to leapfrog over Oregon and Penn State, I'd assume, so they might come in at 8 in the updated playoff rankings. They have officially clinched a spot in the big... I think they have. Well, if they lose to... I think I was talking about Minnesota. I'm looking at the rankings. Actually, wait, no, these haven't been updated, so actually it might be. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I think as of right now, Minnesota, they're in. But it does say they're 7-1 in conference. Wisconsin 6-2 in conference. And they play each other this week, so actually if Wisconsin wins, I think they might be in. But let's say for the sake of this thing right here, Minnesota, they beat Wisconsin, and they go to the Big Ten title games. Now, if they beat number 12 Wisconsin, who's currently ranked number 12 right now, might be 11 or 10 this upcoming week, and they beat Ohio State, who's ranked number 2 right now. They might be ranked number 1 at that game. Is that enough for Minnesota to leapfrog over Oklahoma, jump Utah, and jump Bama, and get one of the final 4 playoff spots? Now, obviously, this is the most improbable to happen because they literally have to beat 2 top 10 teams for it to happen. But stranger things have happened. Do you guys think it can happen, though?
Sure. I mean,
and if it does happen,
at this point, anything that happens will not shock me. Last night's game was surprising, or Saturday night's game, whenever this is going to get posted. Saturday night's game surprised me between ASU and Oregon. I thought it was going to be a close game. I didn't know ASU was going to win the way that they did. But aside from that, I would not be surprised if anything else that happens involving any of the top 10 teams. In both the AP and the college football playoff poll, they're essentially the same thing at this point. I wouldn't be surprised.
So, Blake, this is about whether you think Minnesota can get in or not still?
yes.
You know what I always say on Minnesota and all their kind of bad wins that I put it, quote unquote. Yes, if they beat Wisconsin and Ohio State, they would have a really, really strong case. But do you put in a one-loss Minnesota team over a 1-loss Bama team or a 1-loss Utah team? And specifically, I'll stick on Alabama because it's the same idea as Utah here, I think, is who gives LSU a better chance, Minnesota or Alabama? And again, with the ratings thing, it's the same thing.
But they'll be a conference champion.
They will, but so would Utah. So they'd have the better win, sure, Minnesota. But again, after how they played against Iowa, and it took them a while to get going against Northwestern of all teams on Saturday. You know how I feel about Minnesota. I think there's a handful of teams that are definitely better than them. There's a chance. Even if they win out, I still think there's other teams that, based off the eye test, are better than them.
Brady, do you have anything you'd like to add?
What can I say after this? What can I say after the 2 or 3 of you have just said?
Well, you can give your thoughts. That way, people know what you think.
This Minnesota team that we've seen plays big games well. But that's a problem because so do their opponents. And this next week, Minnesota going to game day for the first time ever. It's kind of surprising. Minnesota got game day. Very different.
Good for them.
It is going to be like a 8 versus 10 matchup. So
10, 12, whatever it is, something like that.
Well, they're currently 10 and 12, but they're both going to move up probably.
Up in the playoff. So it's going to be a top matchup. But to me, that first game, having it be their first game day game is pretty cool. But the thing for me is Penn State is a team that plays really well at the late end of a season. And this is that later end of the season. Penn State needs that final push if they want to get that, what would that be, the second best Big Ten bowl game? If they win, they get the second best Big Ten bowl game? Is that what it would be?
For Penn State, I think so, yeah.
Michigan, you have to see where they fall into things, but they're going to lose to Ohio State. So if Penn State is able to win this last one, this is the second best Big Ten bowl game remaining for these two teams. So if that's what you're playing for, that's what you got to go play for. You got to play for the best. You're not going to get a good shot in the playoff if you're facing Ohio State because they're the most complete team in the country, I think. So for the Big Ten, it's up in the air. It goes through Ohio State. But these teams, I think, all now are playing for the second best bowl game spot for the Big Ten.
So if Minnesota beats Wisconsin and beats Ohio State, do you think that they should be in the top 4?
If they knock off a number 1 seeded Ohio State or number 2 seeded Ohio State, and they knock off Penn State.
You mean Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, yes. I could see there being a chance. I don't know if they deserve to be, but I could see there being a chance.
Oh, wonderful. Which is what we all hope we get. We want chaos. So
chaos.
Let's get
like
some
somebody
chaos.
said to us, that's what they love.
Yes.
College football is about chaos.
Mm-hmm. I I feel like I can share some of the.
I think we
all
have
right.
to.
So this past week in the Bureau, as we've mentioned before, one of the members of the playoff committee, the only woman on the playoff committee, Paula,
Her
is
and
our
Condoleezza Rice.
is our boss, I guess, for the Bureau, and she gave us a lot of information. I feel like she wasn't supposed to.
Then
really.
why are you saying all?
Well-
and why are you even saying that?
Well, because she didn't give us her top 4,
Don't
which
say
is
that.
you're not supposed
We
to.
talked about generalities regarding the playoffs.
So essentially, with the playoffs, what she did say, what she is allowed, what she's allowed to say, according to the committee, they want to get the 4 best teams in. Now, whether that be by winning the conference title game,
the 4 most deserving.
the
teams.
4 most deserving teams is what they look at, and they also say they look at how teams perform against the better teams they play, and how they play against the weaker teams they play. So, for example, Oklahoma losing to Kansas State, Georgia losing, to South Carolina. How's that go? But also how they play against the better teams. They said that's what they look at as well. So the 4 overall best teams, how they think, doesn't have to be on paper, just the 4 best teams for what they've seen and how they play against the good and the bad. We got a good amount as well. We talked with her for like 20 minutes, but there was too much to say and so little time to say it.
Oh,
But guys, now we are going to skip over some of the games because I want to get to this before, and because we do have a very long pick'ems this week, I want to make sure we have a lot of time for. So we're going to go on to the Heisman race right now. Now I think we all have
Did you
Joe
say
Burrow.
Pick'ems?
Oh yes.
No?
Now we are going to go to the Heisman race right now. Now it's still Joe Burrow's to lose, but guys, I have 2 things right here. Number 1, what needs to happen, I guess, for Joe Burrow not to win? And number 2, what players do you think are still technically alive in this Heisman race where they're going to have 1 or 2 just amazing games to finish out the season that could potentially put them over Joe Burrow?
well, like Oregon, Justin Herbert's done. He looked really good, I thought, late in the game when Oregon was desperate and needed to throw the ball downfield, and I think they had 2 scoring drives that were like 3 or 4 plays. He looked great. The other, 3 3/4 quarters of that football game, Justin Herbert looked awful. So I think Herbert's done. I think Jalen Hurts, along with Joe Burrow, obviously, and Justin Fields are all still in it. Jonathan Taylor has not really slumped. I just think that these other guys have really been going off. And obviously, I think Tua's done. Other than that, I think those big 3, 4 are all still in it.
So what you're saying is Justin Herbert's playoff or Heisman chances are quacked?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Quack, quack.
Yeah, so I mean, it's Burrow's to lose. There's no question it's Burrow's to lose, and we've talked about that for a while. My thing is, I mean, according to the Vegas odds, at least as of earlier this week before this slate of games, they had Justin Fields as the number 2 and Hurts at 3, which is funny because I've been a kind of a Hurts supporter and proponent for him all year because this is a guy that's probably going to finish with close to like 6,000 total yards and 60 total touchdowns, and he might come in 3rd but he's still been unbelievable. The thing about Justin Fields is he has a chance to go and win a Big Ten title game and beat a really, really well-regarded Minnesota team, whereas Hurts has a chance to play Baylor, who's still a top 15 team, but people might look at Minnesota a little bit more favorably and in terms of them being a better opponent. So Joe Burrow would have to have a really bad game against Georgia to even give any leeway to anybody else.
He'd have to not play.
Yeah, or he would have to play and go like 8 for 28 for like 70 yards and 3 picks or something like that. And then either Fields or Hurts would have to just have a 500-yard performance in their conference title game. I think that's what it would take to even make the gap close.
When was the last time a non-quarterback or running back was invited to New York?
Was it Manti?
Was it?
I think so.
Well, I think it's going to be this year, too.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
this...
I mean, a few
Oh,
years
wait,
ago.
Jabril Peppers. My
Dory
bad.
should have been in
Jabril.
over
I remember.
Jabril Peppers.
I remember a few years ago, D.D. Westbrook was like a top 5 finalist.
Oh, you're right.
What year was he? 2016?
I can't remember.
Well, whatever it is, I think it's going to happen again this year, and I think it's going to be Chase Young. I think Chase...
That's true.
I
I mean,
honestly could...
He'll be there.
I honestly think Chase Young has better odds to win than Fields.
Single season sack leader in Ohio State football history.
You look at the guys
That's
that have
after
come out of
missing a
Ohio
few
State.
And he did it with a half sack, too.
Yeah,
Yeah, they gave it to somebody else.
yeah.
Yep.
So
And he
not,
did it
not a
missing-
full sack, just a half a sack.
Just a half a sack. You know.
Speaking of set...
No.
Speaking of sacks, Brady, you're the expert. Let's hear it.
It's because I played football?
It is.
All right, cool.
Defense.
Defense.
Oh, I thought it was because you play the saxophone.
Yes. The thing is, I think Chase Young has better Heisman potential than his teammate, Justin Fields.
I
think he
don't
does.
know about that.
I think he
You
does.
know what? I don't think that's a bad
No,
take,
Vegas
though.
has Fields way higher than Young, and
I
Young
know,
also
but-
missed 2 games.
I know, but Vegas is just going to do that because he's an offensive player.
I'm saying.
Okay, but
I'm
usually-
not saying I don't necessarily agree. I just don't think that's a
Okay,
bad
I
take.
just-
No,
I'm saying-
that's my hot take.
I like
and
it.
Bo Nix for Heisman.
Hotter than
so
I thought.
If I have one good Heisman hot take and one that was Bo Nix. So we're gonna see where this goes. But I think it's Burrow's to lose. That's pretty much conclusive to this point. But of everybody else, the person that is most deserving, that makes the most impact, that is just the all-around best player on the team, is Chase Young.
That I agree with. That
It's
I
Chase
agree
Young.
with you.
So, but isn't that what the Heisman is? Is the overall best player, most valuable player, most meaningful to the team?
Yes,
Well-
it is. And you know what? Like I said, Joel Klatt agrees with you. I was saying that a couple weeks on the show. That
Me
he
and
talked
Joel
about that.
Klatt, come hang out, Joel. Let's come chill in Tempe.
It's just hard for a defensive player.
Yeah, Chris
I think-
Fowler did.
I think Chase Young is the best player in college football. I just think that that's not what they kind of turn and favor the Heisman to.
Can I ask a quick question of you guys?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. What's
so
up?
with the Tua injury, Tua's projected to go number 1 overall. It all moving around. If Tua does not go 1 overall,
Yes.
do you take Burrow or Young?
Well, it depends on who's
Miami
who's picking. Let's say it's Miami.
or Cincinnati. If you're Cincinnati,
Cincinnati's
right
got
now.
to take Burrow. I mean, my
Yeah.
goodness, they need a quarterback so badly.
Yeah.
Miami might be a little bit different because they could still use Rosen or Fitzpatrick if they re-sign him for another year. They have so many draft picks. They go get a guy like Chase Young. They could go get a Jerry Jeudy. They get somebody else at the end of the first
Yeah.
round, and then they wait till the next year, and then they go and draft a quarterback. Whereas Cincinnati, they need a quarterback now.
Or I mean, even the Dolphins, I mean, since they're probably going to have, a top 3 pick, they're going to be picking at like 33, 34, 35. They could trade to the back end of the first round, or maybe if Tua's still there, they could somehow finesse Tua, early second round if he's able to slip that much, depending on how
do
his
they have
injury
2 or-
progresses.
I thought they had 2 first round.
No, that's what I was saying about the
Picks.
Dolphins. They have 3.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying they could take Chase Young, and then they could take like a Jerry Jeudy, and then they get somebody at the end of the first, and then they have like the 35th pick or something like that.
Bingo.
where
Then they
get
could take that
another
on Tua.
player. Yeah, they could still get 2 if
So
they
we'll
wanted
see.
them.
So, I mean, I think Chase Young should easily be a top 3 finisher in the Heisman. I think I'd have to give the edge to Jalen Hurts just because right now, 3,200 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and 1,200 rushing yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. I think if anyone's going to beat Burrow, it's going to be Jalen Hurts, and he needs to go absolutely berserk against Oklahoma State and Baylor, which I think he easily can. I think in each of those games he can have 4 to 5 touchdowns, 400 total yards on each way. And again, if Joe Burrow, if all of a sudden, he slips up this upcoming week, if next week against Georgia he's kind of quiet, we'll have to wait and see. A lot of these voters, they take into account how you do in the biggest moments. Now, granted, Joe Burrow did have that great game against Alabama, but, if all of a sudden, things can happen. I still think Burrow wins, but I think Jalen Hurts gave him the best run for his money. If I had a vote, it would go Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Chase Young, Justin Fields, and then I'd probably have, Chuba Hubbard at 5 just because he's been the best running back in the country.
They should give you a vote, Blake.
They should give me a vote.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't. I need a MLB Hall of Fame vote. I need every vote. I need a Heisman vote and an AP vote. And just put me on the playoff committee while you're at it, guys. So we all can agree those are kind of the names that have a chance to get it. Now, we have about 15 minutes. I want to start the pick'ems at around 2:30, maybe a few minutes before. So do you guys want to go to the Q&As, or do you guys want to talk about these 2 games, even though we kind of already briefly talked about it?
Whichever you would like, Blake.
All right, let's go
You're
to the
the host
Q&A.
of the show.
But I guess we could spend just a quick minute talking
now.
about how awesome. Talking smack. I like it. I guess we could talk about how awesome it was that we got to storm the field.
The Stormin' Devils, not the Stormin' Mormons. The
So
Stormin'
we've gotten
Devils.
to storm the field twice during our tenure here at Arizona State. They were both equally as awesome. I think this one, though, is more surprising because although Washington may have been the better team a few years ago, I think we also had hope that we can get the job done. I don't think any of us had an idea or we gave ASU a chance to beat Oregon last night.
It just would have been the most ASU thing ever for them to win.
Which they did.
For them to lose to Oregon State and then come home and beat the number 6
And
team
now
in
they're
the
going to
country.
lose next week
And
to
they,
Arizona.
Oh, absolutely
And they did
they
that.
are.
So we got to storm the field, but ASU does this thing where they don't let you storm for about 3 minutes until the game ends. That way everyone can get off the field. Safety hazard wise, I guess that could happen because you don't want a Washington State incident where player.
Also,
on
correct
the,
me if I'm wrong. They did not do that last night.
What?
They didn't stop people from running on.
Well, for the
as
first-
soon as the final whistle sounded, they lowered the goalposts immediately. But I thought there were people rushing on the field already.
They held us. They held us back more against in the Washington game. They held us back longer. This one, they kind of just after about It was maybe a minute or two. They finally just said, let us go. They definitely held us back, though.
What
'cause-
enticed it also was the team, because you guys were in the stands. I was on the field, so I was stuck.
He
in
got
the
ahead
middle
of us.
the meeting. I was, haha, beat you. A lot of the players ran towards and at the student section,
Yeah.
and was like, "Come on, let's go. Come on, vamonos.
Everybody, let's go.
So that's one of the big things is that how are you, as a security detail, going to stop the entire football team and the entire student section saying, like, come on, let's go, let's go? You're not going to stop that, no matter how quickly it happens.
Now, for those of you that are listening, first off, if you've ever gotten to storm the field, ever in a college football game, tweet at us on the HH Show _ We'd like to know what game you stormed. We officially have stormed 2. So,
Speaking of people on the field, I want to talk about Harvard-Yale.
no, I don't. Harvard, Yale, please.
The most Harvard-Yale thing ever.
And the best
I feel
part
like
is,
that'd be a big Stanford Cal thing. Too.
I
Yeah.
have one of my best friends. He went to Harvard, and I hit him up and said, "Way to go, man! Your Harvard, your Harvard student body is literally ruining a football game." And he literally replied saying, "Not shocked. What are they doing? Play some football." So those Harvard Yale people that weren't part of the protest, they were upset by it, and just stick to football.
Hey, go
Come
for
on.
Good for them. I say good for them.
Did we ever think we'd be saying stick to football for Harvard-Yale?
Here we go. We
gonna
got
say
some
no.
mentions that are coming in right now, and this comes from Sports by JR. He says, "No, I go to a D3 school in the UMAC. We don't have fun there."
Oh.
And actually, shout out to my friend Jeff. My name is Jeff, who hit me up on Snapchat saying, "Man, I'm really disappointed you get to go to a fun school like ASU where you can storm the field. I go to High Point University where we don't even really have athletics." So
Oh, please. If
I
anybody's
know.
going to complain about High Point University.
I was just going to say, for those of you that don't know what High Point University looks like, just take a minute or two and Google what it looks like. Imagine. Okay.
Can I paint one picture before you describe the whole scene?
Yes,
I'll
it looks
just
like
start-
where Lyle went to high school in Richville, Seattle.
Absolutely not. You could look at BK. Have you seen Carmel, Indiana?
That's true as well.
Hey,
Yeah,
what's
Brady,
up?
give us the rundown as well.
Okay, so I told
Oh,
this story.
whoa.
I told this story once over the summer on a broadcast because I think there was somebody that was from High Point. But there is a legit 5-star steakhouse on this campus where each student gets a free meal there every week because it's part of the fine dining culture where High Point wants to teach their students how to properly live a well-mannered life. So in order to teach them, they give them a free 5-star steakhouse dinner once a week every week, and any student can go there for free.
Does anybody know where in the Cronkite building you can get transfer paperwork?
You never know.
I
Yeah.
do not.
Well,
But Blake, yeah, I know.
It's a very nice school.
You've been to High Point, and it
well,
looks like a country club.
My dad went, and he took a lot of photos, and I got to see them. So High Point's a very nice school. So again,
When you said your dad went, I thought you meant he went to school.
oh no, he
there.
went to go visit because when he was judging a beauty pageant, because as a former cast member of Storage Wars, he's classified as a celebrity, and celebrities judge beauty
I
pageants.
thought
so when
celebrities were supposed to win mayor races in California.
Oh, that was a low blow. Hopefully,
Hey,
Mark Harrison's not
governor,
listening.
all right?
Governor.
Now, anyway,
Donald.
so he got to go visit. So anyway, as we get off track, let's go to the Q&A, shall we? Yes, the Q&A. I jotted down a few questions for us to get to, boys. Let's get things underway. This comes from Mike Molissi? Mike Molice?
Hunt.
Why do I always get the hardest names to pronounce? You guys need to be better at this. If you could take any loss away from a team this season, what team would it be, and what loss would you choose?
I would take away. I've got 2 for me. You know what? I've got 3. I know you asked for 1. I'm going to give out 3. For me, USC, I would take away the Washington loss. That one was tough. That one was a tough loss. So was the BYU, but I would choose Washington. For Arizona State, this one is so easy.
Yep.
Colorado. Wait, no, it's not. UCLA. I don't even care about that Colorado game anymore. I am so mad about that UCLA game. I legit thought ASU was going to win by 30 points, and that game made me so mad. And then the other one, honestly, I don't care if this game would, the actual score would be reversed. I just wanted it to be a little bit of a better game. That Michigan-Wisconsin game was just no fun. I just wish that game was closer. It doesn't need to be changed. Michigan didn't need to win. I just wanted a closer game, and those are my 3.
So, okay, I'll leave Notre Dame and ASU out of this, especially Notre Dame and the teams I cheer for, because obviously I'd take away their losses. If I had to pick one, I would take Oklahoma's loss to Kansas State away and give that one back to Oklahoma, because then if they're undefeated, I didn't think Oklahoma was going to lose a game this year for a while, and if they're still undefeated, then there's a ton of chaos at the top four in the college
just like
football
what I
race.
said earlier in the show. Yes,
But
I'm down.
because then it would be undefeated LSU, undefeated Ohio State, undefeated Clemson, and undefeated Oklahoma, and there would legit be a chance for the first time for 4 undefeated teams to get into the playoff. One, that would be crazy, and 2, it would just cause so much more chaos for the rest of the teams trying to fight for a spot, and everybody would have their eyes just absolutely glued on those 4 teams every week, hoping maybe somebody slips up.
You know, Lyle with like the actual serious answer, I really like that for realistic wise. But
Every IU loss ever.
Blake, yes. What happened in the last 39 matchups leading to yesterday? The Indiana Hoosiers were 1-38 against Michigan. They have the worst overall win-to-loss percentage of any Power 5 team in the country.
I feel like every
Yesterday, you're done. I'm on a rant. It started off strong, baby, but I had so much hope. I had so much promise. And then Michigan football happened and IU football happened. I would take away yesterday's loss, as recent as yesterday. Yes, yesterday.
I like it.
I think the UCLA loss from ASU was another big one. But of all time, oh, man.
Just this season or all time?
If we're saying all time,
2005 Rose Bowl.
1968 Rose Bowl.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who'd you lose to?
Shut up, Josh.
Gosh.
IU, USC in the Rose Bowl. I just need something for.
Was that the last time IU finished above 500?
That was the only time IU's been to the Rose Bowl.
That's tough.
1968.
I would.
That's tough.
I would take
Tough
away.
loss. 14-3 loss.
Yep.
Well, guys, I only have 2. Well, I mean, I had 2, but I only have 1, which is last night's Oregon lost to Arizona State.
my
because
God.
And your first one is Oregon's loss at the beginning of the
I
year.
still know that 8 years from now, that win is going to be vacated because something is still going to happen with this Auburn football team. I mean, Bo Nix, we've seen him play. He was on something on that final drive. He got an injection of something, and that's going to come out.
Yeah, and it hit him real quick.
It did. Hit him real quick. I'm going to go with that. I do like, I think it was Lyle's about Oklahoma losing to Kansas State at the beginning of the year or middle of the year, because Oklahoma at this point, they'd be in the driver's seat. I'm also going to throw in the South Carolina to Georgia one, because even with Georgia, they have so many good wins. They potentially could be in the case where if they go in undefeated to the SEC title game, lose to LSU, there's a chance they could still make the playoff, depending on how things would have folded. So I like Georgia, I like Oklahoma, and I like my Oregon ones. Some final questions, guys. If this comes from Ian Thibodeau, if the committee has Ohio State back at 1 going into championship week, which I feel they will if they beat Michigan by more than a touchdown, would a win versus a 1-loss Minnesota or a 2-loss Wisconsin team in the title game be enough to keep them at 1 over a dominant LSU performance against Georgia?
Literally either. If they go back to number 1. If they go back to number 1, I think literally either of those could keep them at number 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Do you know what I just asked?
No.
I knew it. All right, this final question comes from Andrew Koster, guys.
I was reading tweet replies.
As we get into Rivalry Week, are there 2 teams out there that you wish had a rivalry game that currently don't?
Indiana and USC.
Yeah, you know what? I'll pass.
Because you're scared.
No, I'm not. 2 teams that I wish had a rivalry game. I think as someone who's grown up watching really both of these teams, I think it would be cool to see USC and Michigan play everywhere, similar to how kind of Notre Dame and Michigan do. But I think it means that much more when they meet in the Rose Bowl, I guess, or just a bowl game in general, because that's such a historic matchup. I would like to see. It's kind of tough. Let's see I don't know. Does anyone want to go first?
I'll do
How about
it.
Brady goes first?
Okay.
Chattanooga and the Citadel.
Yes.
How great would that be?
Awful.
It'd be awesome.
A UC Davis UCLA rivalry. The battle of the UCs that have football teams. What do any other UCs have football? Oh, Berkeley. Oh, never mind.
Davis.
Oh, wait. UC Berkeley, UC Davis every single year, and they alternate sites. Go Ags. They almost beat them this year. They almost beat them.
Where's your rally towel, Josh?
Woo! I forgot it.
I can rewatch that.
My Ags lost the Causeway Classic this week to Sac State. Truly disappointing. So I needed to pack up the towel for a bit.
That's
also
okay.
got dirty. I have to wash it.
I'll go with instead of Clemson playing South Carolina in the final week of the year, just because I know same state, they have a rivalry. Clemson LSU. I'll say Battle of the Tigers.
Battle of the Death Valleys.
Yeah, that too.
I think it'd be cool if, for whatever reason, if ASU just had the most random rivalry with like Bama, where just every year we got to play Bama, or
That sounds awful.
Yeah, they lose like 25 games in a row.
Like Rutgers, just ASU Rutgers, because
Yes.
why not?
let me
ASU
think.
Duke, the Battle of the Devils.
Oh, they played in a bowl game a couple years ago. They played in the Sun Bowl.
Let us know what
2014
let us
Sun
know
Bowl.
what rivalries
Oh.
you guys would like to see. Now, before we move on to the pick'ems, we got some field stormers.
Field storming, I got one.
Oh yes.
How about the Battle of Iowa State and Oklahoma State? The battle of the best mascots.
The Cyclones versus Pistol Pete.
Oh.
Lyle.
Interesting.
I'm down.
So we got some field
They do
stormers.
play every week.
We got
year.
some field stormers. Andrew Douglas said yes. Michigan at Iowa a couple years ago got to storm the field there. Football predictions, yes, twice. 2015 Utah State and Boise State, and in 2017 Utah State and BYU. So I'm assuming that's on the Utah State end. That's my goodness. That's me saying. And as always, Andrew Koster gets to do it for every home game because Clemson storms the field after every win. So when they picked up the win against Wofford, what was it, a week ago? Oh, you better believe they stormed the field. But Brady, it is time to cue the Pick'ems music because, guys, we have a very fun rivalry week edition Pick'ems. Now,
Dun, 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 dun.
I did some counting earlier and I forgot the number that I had, but I believe we have about 30 games that we're going to pick through in 30 minutes. Rivalry edition. Now, before we get to the rivalry edition Pick'ems, let's go to our ESPN Pick'ems League. Guys, you still have time to join. There's still time to join. In first place with exactly 100 points
Wow.
is Blake Walker.
Ooh.
He heads into the final week with a 2-point lead over Don Pablo.
31 games this week, Blake.
31 games. Wow. Thanks, interns. Thanks
Things
for
are gonna change
Thanks
so
for checking.
quick.
Which is why I wanted to have a bunch of games this week. Now, moving into our pick'em rankings, and again, this is our final week for pick'ems because for bowl week we have a separate one. So Brady, cue up my epic music. In last place with 100 points is Lyle.
Boo.
In third place. Oh my goodness! In third place with 107 points is me. In second place with 108 points,
Oh, no.
a 1-point cushion, is Josh.
Disappointing.
And in first place with 114 points is Brady, as the lights have gone out in the studio.
Literally anything could... like, Lyle could run away with the Pick'ems this week.
He could.
He could run away. Lyle has the chance to win by, like, 20. That's
I mean,
crazy.
if him and Brady pick the exact opposites for every game. Brady, you have 114. You have a 6-point lead
It's a little too close for
over
comfort.
Josh. But guys, without further ado, let's get these pick'ems underway. Rivalry edition style. Now remember, we do have about 30 minutes. So for some of the bigger games, we could spend some more time on. For some of these little ones, don't need to really go too in depth or anything like that, whatnot. So let's do this. Now, there's a few non-rivalry games, though, but a few good games this week. The first one is Cincinnati at Memphis. This has American Conference title game implications.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good game. You know, I've liked Memphis pretty much all year. Good running game, good passing game. The defense is not awful. And you know who they've got a quarterback? Southern California native and former Sun Devil Brady White. This game's also at home for the Tigers. I've got Memphis.
I'm going to take Cincinnati on the road.
What?
Memphis at home.
Wait, oh, the phone call? Yeah, I don't know.
Blake, are you paying attention to your own show?
Well, I mean, I guess Brady's filling the phone call, so I was just looking. So did he not make his pick yet?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did? Oh, I am sorry. I'm going to go
Brady
with...
picked Memphis,
I
correct?
yelled Memphis at home, then went to answer the phone.
I'm going to
Sorry.
go with Memphis in this one. West Virginia at TCU.
Two Big 12 teams that are super underwhelming, and TCU at home.
I'm going to take TCU too. I like the Horned Frogs.
Which are we on TCU?
West Virginia.
TCU at home.
I'm going to go with West Virginia in this one. North Carolina at NC State.
Here's a good one. This can be a little bit of a rivalry, too. I've picked the home team in each of the last two, and I think that North Carolina wins this one on the road by 2 touchdowns.
Oh. I'm going to take UNC on the road. I think it's closer than that. I think it's a 4-point win. I'll say.
Well, Brady's got something in the other studio. I'm going to go with mine. I'm going to go with North Carolina just because of how close they've played games this year. So we'll get to him in about a minute or so, unless he wants to give his pick right now. We're on North Carolina, NC State.
Oof, my goof. I'm going to go NC State at home.
Okay.
Like NC State.
And again, I'm just going to reiterate, I picked North Carolina. Texas A&M at LSU.
Texas A&M at I like kind of what A&M's been doing. There's just no reason to pick against LSU, especially at Death Valley. No reason. I've got Burrow and the Tigers at home.
This one's a slam dunk. I'm going to say LSU by 17.
17?
Yeah. They're
Hey guys,
so
thank you. We love you, man. Go Tigers.
they're so
Come
good.
on.
LSU's so good.
LSU, easy money.
Oh, yeah. Easy money. LSU. What happened to the music?
I can still hear it. What do you mean?
Oh, it just got like really quiet all of a sudden. Maybe that's just me.
It's the crescendo in the song.
All right, guys, it's time to get some of
Come
these
on, band
rivalry
boy.
games with the rivalry title names and the trophies you win, starting with the Egg Bowl, the battle for the Golden Egg Trophy. Ole Miss at Mississippi State.
Kylan Hill and the Bulldogs at home over the Rebs.
I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. And am I able to go back and change my pick from the North Carolina NC State game?
Sure, why not? I'll be generous.
I'm going to go with North Carolina. I was really flustered.
That's
back here
okay.
for that.
We
I'm
all were.
Going North Carolina.
All right, and what
For
about
that one,
the Egg Bowl?
Mississippi State at home.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss on the road in the Egg Bowl. Texas at Texas Tech, the battle for Chancellor's Spurs.
That's a great
Chancellor's Spurs. Texas at Texas Tech. Well, Texas is not back. In fact, they're underwhelming as heck. But I think they go on the road to Jerry's World Jr. and get the win.
I'm going to go...
The game's in Austin, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Is it at... See, because a lot of these, Blake, a lot of these picks that you wrote down here are wrong.
Yeah, this game's
Like the
in
location.
Austin.
Yeah, if it's in Austin, I've still got Texas, but...
I'm going to go with Texas. Texas Longhorns, not Horned Frogs.
The Texas Horned Frogs, the little brother of the Texas Longhorns. Texas.
I'm going to go with Texas Tech in this one, which brings our next game, the Commonwealth Cup, featuring Virginia and Virginia Tech. Now, I believe whoever wins this game might be representing themselves in the ACC Championship game. I'll have to check the standings, but I think that might be the case. So if someone could check the standings real quick, that'd be super duper.
This game is actually in Charlottesville, too.
What
so
is
it's
going
VT
on?
at UVA.
What is going on with this?
I don't know, Blake. Should have paid more of attention when you were
maybe.
writing down your picks.
Maybe I should have.
Also, like half of them have the bowl game or the game name first, and then the teams.
Well, no,
have the teams, and then the no.
So some of these games have titles, some of them don't, and then some of them have trophies, some of them don't. So if they don't have a title for it, they don't have the title.
I see what you did there. Okay, all right. I see what you did there.
Yeah. This one for me, I think that this game is actually going to be pretty close. And both of these teams, again, like last week I said that I think Virginia Tech needs a little bit more love. I think Virginia does too. And in this one, I'm going to take another Sun Devil at quarterback. I'm taking Bryce Perkins and the Wahoos at home.
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. I think the Hokies get it done.
I got Virginia at home. Bryce Perkins, 3 touchdowns.
Yes, whoever wins this game will have the privilege of playing Clemson in the ACC title game.
Good luck.
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech in those one. They've been playing some really good football. The Apple Cup. Washington State at Washington.
This one's going to be fun, guys. Washington has a much better defense. The Cougars have a pretty good offense. And you know what? I think the Cougars get their first win over Washington since 2012, and I think it comes on the road.
I like the Huskies in Seattle. I mean, they came off a tough loss. They did end up losing, right, to Colorado?
Washington?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, they're coming off a tough loss, and Washington State can certainly put up a lot of points, but I just feel like rivalry at home in Seattle, it'll be pretty close to a sellout. I think the Huskies get it done.
As the great NFL quarterback Jameis Winston once said, eat a W. I'm going Washington.
Guys, last week for the over-under, I said, will Anthony Gordon get 5,000 passing yards of the season? He almost got that in the game last night. He threw for 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. He now has 4,900 passing yards on the season. Set the Pac-12 all-time record for passing touchdowns in a season. He has a chance to throw for 50+ this year. I'm going to go with Washington State. Now, when they win, do they all get to eat apples of their choice?
That's a good pick.
Should they
They get apple
Should they
pies.
all eat apples? All right.
Gala apples. Or Granny
Iowa-
Smith apples.
Iowa
No.
at Nebraska, the battle for the Heroes Trophy. It's kind of a boring one.
This one's a little disappointing. I gotta be honest. I have Iowa getting the win over Nebraska. I really thought this could be the year Nebraska did something, and I just haven't seen it. So I've got the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I got Iowa on the road.
Iowa on the road at a sold-out Nebraska State.
You know what? The final game of the season, the battle for the Heroes Trophy. Nebraska actually looked good yesterday for once. So did Adrian Martinez, finally. I'm going to go with Nebraska in the upset. The battle at the Bayou. The battle for the wooden boot. UL Monroe at Louisiana.
This rivalry is just so fiery that I got hot and had to take my sweatshirt off
Ooh.
again. However, I've got the Raging Cajuns in a landslide.
Yeah, I like the Raging Cajuns too. Louisiana Lafayette.
Raging Cajuns by 21.
Louisiana as well. Now, Lyle, they don't go by Lafayette anymore. They've dropped the Lafayette for whatever reason. I don't know why they dropped it.
They're just Louisiana.
It's just Louisiana, so they dropped it. I don't know why. But I'm going to go with Louisiana as well. This one, guys, this is a great one. It's just modern hate. Georgia State at Georgia Southern.
You know, in the past, I've kind of just liked Georgia Southern because I thought their logo was really cool. I'm taking Georgia State in this one. I think they've actually got a decent team. I've been seeing a lot of clips of them on Twitter. I don't know why. I don't know who I follow that I just see a lot of Georgia State stuff. But I'm taking State.
I will go Georgia State on the road.
I'm going Georgia Southern at home.
Well, I need to catch up on Brady, so I'm going to go with Georgia State. Hopefully that pays off. The Battle Line rivalry, the battle for the Battle Line trophy. Missouri at Arkansas.
Another game that's just so underwhelming. Arkansas is not very good. Missouri lost to Tennessee at home last week. But you know what? I've got Kelly Bryant and Larry Roundtree on the road. I've got Mizzou.
Yeah, is Arkansas going to battle for the Battle Line trophy? Because they haven't done much battling this season. I've got Missouri.
Oh.
No.
That was punny, Lyle. Very, very punny. I'm going Mizzou on the road.
Yeah, unfortunately, this will not be a battle because Missouri is going to pick up the victory, the war on I-4. South Florida at UCF.
It's a cute name. I like it, and I think I would have cared more about this game if it was last year or the year before. I think UCF gets the win at home.
Yeah, I got the Golden Knights.
The 2017 or 16 national champion UCF Golden Knights will prevail again this week.
I think it'd be 17, BK, but
17,
yeah.
Yes, I'm going to go with UCF. Fresno State at San Jose State. The battle for the Valley Cup. Now, that is a very boring one.
Silicon Valley versus Central Valley, and I'm sticking with the Central Valley. I've got the Bulldogs.
I'm gonna go San Jose State at home.
I'm going Fresno State on the road.
Fresno State's been very underwhelming this year after a great season last year where they won, I think, like 11 games. They've won 4 this year, so what happened there? I'm going to go with San Jose State. The Civil War. That's a cool one. Oregon State at Oregon.
Great trophy, too.
The Platypus Trophy is so sick.
Oh.
Sorry,
may take over.
I'm just getting ready to host this show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you and Blake going to switch seats if
Yes.
whoever wins?
Yeah. I'm down. No, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something, Blake?
No, you said it all. I'm waiting for you to make your pick.
Oh, well. Okay, then.
Maybe you're too busy retweeting all your tweets on the Harris Highlights Show Twitter account.
Yeah, well, you can tweet whatever you want whenever we do something stupid, but somebody else does, and
Hey,
suddenly now we have a problem here.
I tweeted out something.
I don't know
for
why
myself
Blake
last
just
night.
made this whole show really weird a couple minutes ago, but I'm going to go ahead and take Oregon at home.
Oh.
Yeah, Oregon's not gonna lose 2 in a row. Ducks.
Oregon at home.
The Ducks.
Quack.
Let's go.
Let's go. Where's the hat?
100 miles of hate. Middle Tennessee at Western Kentucky.
Sick name. It won't be a sick game. I've got the Hilltoppers at home by a lot.
Yeah, Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky at home by a mile.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Western Kentucky
100
as
miles.
well. Can we get 4 quarters of hate? The battle for Nevada. Nevada or Nevada, guys? How do you guys say
It's
it?
Nevada.
Yeah?
It is.
Yeah.
It is literally
Nevada.
not Nevada.
Yeah.
It's Nevada and Oregon,
Yeah.
not Nevada and Oregon.
Yeah.
How do you
I
say
know.
it?
I know. I say Nevada.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what reaction I can get out of you
Blake
guys.
Noticed a lot of East Coast people say Nevada.
Blake says
Ye-
Nevada.
UNLV at Nevada. The Fremont Cannon. Is this an actual cannon that they get?
I don't
I'm
know.
looking it up.
Is it like Fremont Street in Vegas?
Oh.
Fremont Cannon. I mean, it would make sense, right? The Fremont. It's a thing. It's a little cannon. That's cool. I hope they don't use it on each other. That would be really bad. I'm taking Nevada. I think a guy that I covered in high school used to go to Los Angeles High School, small school, home of the Romans. Kamen Curtin was their quarterback. I'm pretty sure he's a safety at Nevada. I don't know if he starts.
Nevada.
I don't know if he starts, but I'm taking the Wolf Pack, I guess.
I got Nevada. It is Nevada.
It is Nevada, and it is their game to win.
This is such a cool thing, the Fremont Cannon. I love it. It's very retro looking. I'm going to go with Nevada, though.
That's also not
in
a small cannon. That's like a full size.
I know, that's a
cannon,
pretty- it's a
Josh.
pretty-
It looked
big one.
small in the one. It looked like they had like a little sign propped up next to it, and it was not like tiny, but it looks like it's like half the size of a normal. I don't know. I could be wrong.
The Rumble in the Rockies. Colorado at Utah.
I would like Colorado and Utah fans, if you're listening, to let us know either in the comments or tweet at us, and let us know if you actually think this is a rivalry, because Rumble in the Rockies sounds like it's the Pac-12 conference trying to force two teams that don't have a rivalry together to have a rivalry together. That's just the vibe I've gotten for it, considering I know that Utah really doesn't like ASU for whatever reason. But I've got Utah. I don't think this is a game. I think anything could happen because it's the Pac-12, but Utah should win this game, and I think they do.
I'll take Utah by 14.
Utah by at least 15, Lyle.
Utah by at least 16.
Oh, come on.
Got you there. The Bedlam series. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. The battle for the Bedlam Bell.
Love Bedlam. I think
That's
it's
a
I think
tongue
it's a
twister.
close game, but I think OU wins it.
I'm gonna go with Oklahoma. Hey Blake, are you gonna have some interest in this game this year? Last year I know you did.
Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. I mean, it could be. Now, Lyle, it was Oklahoma, West Virginia that I had a lot of interest
Was
in.
it? Oh,
Oklahoma,
whatever.
Oklahoma State didn't have as much interest
Why
in.
are you so interested in it?
Yeah, it's a good game. A lot of points being
I don't
scored.
blame you. Oklahoma on the road. I'm going Boomer.
I hope there's Bedlam. Yes. I'm going to go with the Sooners in this one. Notre Dame at Stanford, the Legends Trophy. Ooh, the Legends Trophy.
Ooh.
I didn't know that
was
was
a
a
thing.
Wow. There you go.
I didn't know that was a thing, and I don't think this is going to be a game. I've got Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame always ends their year in California one way or another. This year it's up in NorCal, and yeah, I think Notre Dame beats Stanford pretty handily.
Notre Dame by 2 scores.
It's a thing.
This will be the 34th meeting, the first being on January 1st, 1925. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 15-12, so I guess there were some ties thrown in there. I'm trying to look at the image of the trophy.
It's kind of cool.
It's a pretty good... This looks like it's from the 1925. I'm going to go with Notre Dame in this one. The Sunshine Showdown. Florida State at Florida.
Another game that'll be close until halftime. Gators, big. Seminoles just don't have it.
Yeah, Florida at home, they'll take care of it.
Gators because they have an actual head coach.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Florida in this one. Guys, this is my favorite one that I didn't know existed. Farmageddon.
You
Iowa
don't
State
have to be
at
lonely
Kansas State.
at Farmageddon.com.
I'm going to take Iowa State, the pride of Perry High School in Mesa, Brock Purdy. Did not know him, have no connection to him whatsoever, but he's from out here. I'm taking Iowa State.
Kansas State's been struggling as of late, and they haven't really gotten it back together down the stretch. I'm going to go with Iowa State.
Without Bill Snyder, got it right this time, at head coach, they're not going to do much. Iowa State.
I think a Cyclone would take down Bill Snyder any day of the week, so I'm going to go with the Cyclone.
I disagree.
I think a gentle blow would take down Bill Snyder.
That is, ooh, poor guy. Northwestern at Illinois, the Land of Lincoln Trophy.
For the first time on this, first of all, great name, Land of Lincoln. That's awesome. But for the first time on this show, I say with confidence, sorry Northwestern fans and the main man Peter Warren, I have Illinois convincingly winning a football game.
Wow.
Convincingly.
I didn't think I'd ever sit on this show and pick Illinois. You know what, Lovey? You're turning that program around. I'm going with the Illini.
Lovey Smith. Do what is right and win this football game.
Why is your light on?
Because my lighting in here is terrible.
Oh.
And this looks better.
All right, I'm going to go with Illinois. The Palmetto Bowl. Clemson at South Carolina.
Well, as they do say in Pasadena, the best Mexican food in the city of Roses is located at 845 Palmetto Drive, Mijares Mexican Restaurant.
Is that a commercial or something?
It was for the summer baseball team Blake and I worked for 2 years ago. No free ads. I heard that it was not very good, but I never went. So I'm taking Clemson on the road.
Well, like Clemson does just about every week and blows out their opponents by 25 or more points, it's going to be about the same this week. I got Clemson.
Clemson. Duh.
I mean, you guys know I'm a huge fan of the Cox, but in this game, I'm going to have to go with Clemson in this one. Clemson, because according to Clemson expert Andrew Koster, I always say Clemson.
Yeah, there's
Clemson.
Breaking
So I'm going to
news.
say
Blake,
Clemson.
big fan of... Never mind.
All right, guys, where are we at? This is another good one. Just a clean, old-fashioned gate. Georgia Tech, the batter.
Batter.
It's clean old-fashioned hate.
Oh. Whoops, that's a typo there.
He wrote gate on the note sheet. On the rundown, he wrote gate. They probably walked through a big gate on the way into the stadium, though.
The schools are actually separated. They're on the same. They're on opposite sides of the street, just by a gate.
Clean, old-fashioned gate.
Whoever
Clean, old-fashioned hate
Whoever wins
featuring
gets
Georgia Tech.
whoever
the
wins gets
battle
to
for
paint
the
the
governor's
Blake,
cup.
I'll do it for you. Delete H. Hate. There you go.
Yeah, backspace, capital H. Look, clean, old-fashioned hate. This game is going to be a clean, old-fashioned blowout. Georgia by at least 3 scores.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Georgia outscores Georgia Tech by more or if Clemson outscores South Carolina by more. I've got Georgia.
Georgia by 60, and they win the gate.
I'm gonna go Georgia. I'm gonna go Georgia by 38 in this one. Indiana at Purdue, the old Oaken Bucket.
All right, I've done this for the last couple of weeks, and Brady, for the glory of old IU, I've got the Hoosiers in this one. That's what I'm talking about,
Let's
baby.
go.
I'm going to go with Indiana on the road. Purdue doesn't have it.
Indiana, finally with confidence. I can pick you to win a football game on these pick'ems.
Wow, guys,
With confidence.
look at the bucket. This thing is fantastic.
It's
This
sick.
looks like a keg from the 1890s.
So it has got the chains all up and down the side, and there are little plaques on it with every year with the winners. And the chain down the side is either an I or a P.
That's
for
cool.
whoever wins.
That's
really
cool. I'm gonna go with IU in this one.
It's also
Let's
very
all
heavy.
root for back home again.
in Indiana.
All right, we have another Governor's
That was
Cup.
the worst moment we've ever had on the
We have
show.
another Governor's Cup, but this one's featuring Louisville and Kentucky.
How many governors are there?
That's what I want to know.
At least 50. This one is
was so
sponsored by
quick.
the governor of Kentucky,
That
I
was
guess.
so quick and so fun.
I've got Louisville in this one. I don't think Kentucky's got it, and Louisville really putting a smackdown on ACC powerhouse Syracuse last week. So, sorry to the guys clad in orange that Lyle and I know, but y'all don't have it this year, and I don't think Kentucky's got it this weekend.
Yeah, I've got Louisville on the road.
Blake, let me ask you, how do you properly say the capital of Kentucky? Louisville or Louisville?
Louisville.
Wrong, it's Frankfurt, you idiot. All right, so
Well, hey, that's the reason why it took me 3 tries to get every state capital right in 5th grade.
5th grade. I feel like we did that in like 8th grade.
Well, Lyle, I went to school in Arcadia, California, which, for those of you that don't know,
Nope.
is the smartest school district in the country, where literally every year the only people that get a perfect score on the SAT go to Arcadia High School.
I didn't go there.
You didn't go there.
neither did I.
I'm at ASU.
Yeah,
I definitely did not go there.
I'm going. Who did I have picked? I'm going Kentucky at home. In
That's
this
a
one.
lousy pick.
All right, fine. I'm going Louisville, Josh.
Oh, that's not what I meant.
I'm going Louisville.
Pick
Lock it
Kentucky.
in.
Well,
Lock
I'm
it
going to
in.
go
Pick
with Kentucky.
Kentucky.
I'll pick Kentucky,
Louisville.
Josh.
I
Lock
need
it in.
him to pick Kentucky.
Well, I'm
Lock
picking
it up.
Kentucky. Now, going back real quickly, when I tweeted out saying, have you guys stormed the field, the United Legion of College Football just casually replied, yeah, Auburn versus Alabama 2013.
Oh, subtle.
Okay.
Awesome.
One of the greatest storm fields probably in the history of college football. Well, that's all right. Oh, yes, boys. Yes. Wisconsin at Minnesota. The battle for Paul Bunyan's axe.
Why are there like 3 different games, rivalry games, all revolving around Paul Bunyan?
I don't know, but Brady, I really need a point here. So who are you going to pick in this one?
I'm not saying, dog.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, well, look. Minnesota, a couple weeks ago, Brady and I were calling the USC game, and Minnesota was beating up on Penn State, and the USC broadcaster said there was not a chance Minnesota was going to lose this game because it is the biggest home game they've had in, 10 years? 20 years?
Game day.
Not a chance they were losing that game. And now they've got game day this week, hosting a top 15 Wisconsin team. And I think they lose. I've got Wisconsin on the road.
I was about to say, I don't think lightning strikes twice. I got Wisconsin coming in and getting the win.
Jonathan Taylor re-enters his name into the Heisman race.
Come on, dude. Pick Minnesota.
No, I have no. No.
Come on.
I'm pulling a Lyle and be like, I'm not going to play my defense because I might let up a lot of points this week and I'm already winning. So I'm going to go with Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor re-enters his name in the Heisman race last week of the season.
Don't worry, Josh. I'll pick Minnesota because I'm going with my Minnesota Gophers. Lightning does strike twice, and they're going to pick up the win. The game, Ohio State at Michigan.
I'll have you know the game was played this past weekend between Harvard and Yale. This one is close. I think what happens in this game is similar to this last week against Penn State. I think Ohio State's up like 14-0. I think it's 21-0, something like that, where it looks like the game's teetering on the brink of an absolute blowout. But then there's just something. The game or their opponent's going to flip a switch and turn things around and get right back in the game. I think Michigan comes back around halftime, makes it a close game, but the Buckeyes pull away with the win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of watch how Justin Fields looks on Saturday because he kind of got banged up at the end of last game. Thank goodness for him, he's okay. But, man, if trends are really trends, it does not favor Michigan, I can tell you that. And I think Ohio State is a superior team, and I've got Ohio State taking this game. We'll see if they're really due or not, Blake.
I've got Ohio State in this one. Chase Young extends his record for sacks. He gets at least 3. And Justin Fields throws for 3 touchdowns and rushes for 1. 4 total touchdowns for Fields. Ohio State by at least 2 scores.
So BK's hoping to see a lot of sacks out there in the field.
Dude, you know
now,
what?
at the
I love
beginning of the
sacks,
year,
you love
I
Cox.
said Michigan, this is the year because they're due. Yeah, I was wrong, unfortunately. I'm going to go with Ohio State to get this one. Hopefully it's a close game, and hopefully we can see some good football. The Iron Bowl, the battle for the James E. Foy V/ODK Sportsmanship Trophy, Alabama at Auburn.
Hey, sportsmanship, get a shorter name.
Yeah, honestly, just call it the Iron Bowl. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm going to pick Bama. I don't know what to think about this game, though. I think it could be close. I also think Bama could win by 3 touchdowns. So I'm just going to play it safe, and I'm going to say I'm taking the Tide.
I do. I won't be as outspoken as I've been on some takes in the past, but I will say it is Bo Nix versus the University of Alabama. Bo Nix has not been ideal when he goes against tough teams, to say the least. For that reason, I'm going to take Alabama. I'm going to say they're going to win by 16.
Hey, just put it like this. Bo Nix has never lost to Alabama.
That's true.
Think
That
about
is
it like
true.
that. You know, for the last time this season on the regular pick'ems, I am going with Alabama because why, Lyle?
Because why not?
And because they're a much better football team.
Bo Nix shocks the world and keeps Auburn within 3 touchdowns of Alabama. I'm going to go with the Tide in this one. No worst of the worst this week, guys, because I didn't want to try to find the worst possible rivalry there is.
Pretty sure you already did. It's Arkansas and whoever Arkansas is
Missouri,
playing.
that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst of the worst
This one
week.
could be up there, though, this upcoming week. The battle for the Territorial Cup. It's called the Territorial Cup And the winner gets the Territorial Cup.
Oh.
Arizona at
Is that why?
Arizona State.
Also, the Territorial Cup, aside from being the oldest rivalry trophy in college football, is also the name of just the cross-sport rivalry,
Yes.
like trophy too. So you have the actual Territorial Cup for football between U Arizona and ASU.
I'm sorry, I have some breaking news. N'Keal Harry just caught his first career touchdown pass in the NFL.
Yes,
Speaking of ASU, perfect timing.
that is really perfect timing. Good for you, N'Keal.
Attaboy, N'Keal.
Manny to Tom Brady.
Arizona versus ASU. Brady's got a video of it with Brady throwing the football.
Play-by-play.
Somebody in motion, can't tell who it is. Brady drops to pass, looks left, goes to the end zone, and real deal N'Keal goes up, gets it, he brings it down. Oh, they're going crazy.
Julian Edelman
They
with the
are
fist
going
bump.
crazy in Foxborough. It's a little moist outside. There's dew on the camera. It's
All right,
clearly
now
been
remember, we do
raining.
have 2 minutes left until someone else has to come into the studio.
Oh, well, maybe I'll just do what Blake did last week and just purposely stall.
Oh.
Lyle and I are calling the game. ASU is 1-1 when I don't make a pick, but this one, I don't think it's going to be that close. Plus, it's U of A. I've got ASU 52-24. Yeah, throwing a curveball at you guys.
see that
Huh?
So we are making picks.
If you want to, you can. I've got the Devils 52-24.
I think you have to for this one.
All right. This is voted as, per a New York Times article, not only is it the oldest trophy in college football, ASU and Arizona, the most hated rivalry in college football.
Love it.
And a lot of that's because some of these other schools have rivalries, but other rivalries. But hey, most hated rivalry in the country in college football. I'm going to go ASU by 6 points. I'm going to say 33-27 Devils.
Arizona State at the newly named Arizona, kind of like the U of SC. I don't know why they changed it, but they did. Still proves that Sean Miller's a cheater. Anyways, I think Arizona keeps it close to start the game, and the closest the game will be is 0-0 at the beginning. I think ASU wins by 3 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels shatters another passing record this week and throws for, let's say, 4 touchdowns and rushes for 1. 5 total touchdowns for Jaden Daniels.
Love it.
The national college football player of the week this week, the offensive player of the
The
week.
final home game of our collegiate career, hopefully for me, I could assume. We'll have to
Where
wait
you
and
going
see.
next?
I'll be in the student section. Brady will be on the field. Lyle and Josh will be in the booth. And I'm going to go with the Sun Devils. If you'd like to listen to them
we got
on
some
air,
people joining us for the game too, don't we? That's pretty
yes.
cool.
Yes.
If you guys would like to listen to them, they play at 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, so
y'all
for
are
those of you
complaining-
East Coast folks, 10 p.m. Eastern, you can tune into blazeradioonline.com, listen to the game. They're also going to tweet out another link that I guess is more ahead, but now since Brady fixed Blaze,
You're welcome.
I don't think there's much of a delay anymore. So if you want to listen to their football call, go ahead. The final game of the week, the final game of our pick'ems. We'll have to wait and see next week who comes. I believe next week we are going to be on at Tuesday, our normal time again, so don't have to worry about that. So that does wrap up this edition of the show. Yes,
All right,
Brady
It
looked a little
does.
confused, but yes, it does.
I was thinking a week after that.
It was a little confusing, I know.
Yeah.
So 9 days from now. Don't worry. Well, this has been another fun show. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _ Lots of fun stuff there. As I mentioned, follow them on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Brady on Twitter. Follow the show on Twitter. And listen to them this weekend on air for the game. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. If you want one of these Fear the Fork shirts, hit me up on Twitter. I'll see if you have any extras. It's a first come, first served basis. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Hey guys, thank you. We love you, man. Go Tigers.